The the second thought I want to bring you today is, again, if I may use a picture. Many of you will know this particular picture. It's in this case, it's a picture of something that my wife has embroidered. It's a poem called Footsteps. It's very familiar to many Christians, and it's a wonderful poem. It's basically talks about a dream a man has, and in the dream he looks back on life, and he thinks that it's a bit strange that though God has promised to be with him, there is only one set of footprints in the sands of life. At some point in his life when things were very difficult. And the point of the poem is that God says in the poem to him, my child, don't you understand that there was only one set of footprints, because during those hard times, I was the one who was carrying you. That's a terrific truth, and something that's very encouraging. The Bible actually says something even more wonderful. It's tucked away in Psalm 77, and I want you to look at it with me. The psalmist Asaph is talking about a day of trouble in which he has sought the Lord, and he talks about it being a day when he was so troubled that he couldn't speak, and that he was kept awake at night with anxiety and fear. And then he began to think about God's goodness to him and to his people over the years. And he says in verse 19, looking back on God's deliverance to his people of old, out of Egypt, through the Red Sea, and to the Promised Land, which is a picture of all that Christ has done for us, delivering us from the slavery of sin, putting us on the road to heaven, promising he's present with us, and one day, as he promised, bringing to heaven those who love and trust the Lord Jesus. Looking back on God's great deliverance of the Old Testament, he says this about God: your way was through the sea, verse 19, your path through the great waters, yet your footprints were unseen. We're coping at the moment by an unseen, except to the professional eye, an unseen deadly virus, which is affecting a lot of things. But as Christians, we need to look to something much greater and more wonderful that is unseen. And that is God's unseen presence and care of his people. He has promised not necessarily to deliver us from the problems of life, but to be with us in the problems of life. And as we look back on our lives, we can see that more clearly. And when we get to heaven, we'll see how wonderfully he's led us. Here, the psalmist says in verse 20, you led your people like a flock. In other words, God is our shepherd. He knows us. He knows what we need, and he has promised to walk with us and provide for us and protect us along life's journey. His footprints may be unseen, but they're very real, and the effect of his providential care of his people is best seen as we look back and think upon his goodness to us over the years. May God help us to do that and to trust him, whatever today and tomorrow brings.